Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So cracking on with the Losi Micro B, we've got some more parts. This time Injora parts. Not sure how well these are going to go, but definitely been a bit hit and miss with Injora parts in past. But we've got the little ball studs and the adjustable tie rods. I bought an extra pack of ball studs because I'm going to try and swap out the Losi original parts because they're a pain in backside to try and unscrew, and these are a tiny little hex head in the top of them, so it should make us life a bit easier. But we've got enough to do all the front and all the rear, and then some extra ball studs in case we need them, in case we snap any, because they are really thin. But yeah, let's bring in for a close-up look and see how we get on with this one. Right, so first off, let's have a look at what we get in the packet for the adjustable tie rods, and these are part number LOS-09. So we do get a whole bunch of ball studs. We also get some 1mm little washers or shims if you like, and what they say is they're to add 1mm to these. Now I'm not really sure what the point of them is, because these are fully adjustable, so you can screw them off and screw them back on to adjust the length of them. So I'm not really sure why we'd need the 1mm washers on these, but maybe because they're such small threads, if it gets a bump it pushes it on. But we get two in that length. We then get two slightly longer, and we get two angled really short ones. So these are to replicate what we've got on the steering. Right, so looking at these, you've got two that are ever so slightly longer, and I believe that's for these. The ones that are angled, they should be for your steering arms, and the ever so slightly shorter ones should be for the rear. And I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, but there is, on top of the knurlings, there are some tiny little marks, so just make sure you get them all the same direction. The only ones that are going to be different will be these, because both the little rings are on the outside, so you'll have one that turns one way to adjust and one that turns other way. Not really sure why they've done that and why they didn't reverse one of these, but that's how they built them. You could swap them round. So let's set about getting these done. I think I'll go for the rear first because they're going to be a bit of a pain. So first off, we need to just whip both the wheels off so we can get to the end of our ball studs, if you like, and just make sure we don't lose his wheel nuts. And I don't think on the front we'd need to remove anything. We should be able to get to everything as it is. And don't lose your tiny little drive pins for your hexes. So once we've got his wheels off, we're going to need to remove his two top shock mounts and then these two screws. For these you're going to need the 050 driver. It's just because if you don't, it's going to be an absolute nightmare trying to get to the turnbuckles on the inside. So we've got those two screws, then we've got one on the back of the wing, and then finally you've got two more, one at either side just under the wing, and these are all tiny little 050 headed screws. So that'll get his wing out the way. And then you've got the last two screws on the back of his shock tower. This should let all his shock tower top come away. and then you just need to remove your shocks. So if you've got the stock ones, you can just pop the top ball studs off. If you've got the aftermarket ones, you can unscrew them. So this should let us remove that. And just be careful because you've got your 4 screws still sticking out of here. And then we just need to twist these off. And that'll allow us to get to these 2 ball studs that we're going to swap out. And then you can just take the arms off. And then it'll give you a good opportunity to sort of line these up, see which ones fit perfect. So it does look like the shorter ones fit on these perfect, but I'm going to put these on with the rings to the right hand side. So you've got the little knurlings and then the little rings on the end of them. I'm going to put them to the right hand side. So now, without losing all those little screws and washers, we just need to unscrew these 2 ball studs and these 2 ball studs. So I'll get that done now. So now we've got them 4 little ball studs removed. Just be careful you don't lose any of your drive shafts like that one's trying to escape. But we now need to fit these little ball heads, and these are the Injora ones, but you need an 050 driver for them. Just be very, very careful when you screw these in. You don't want to be over tightening any of these at all. But it is so much easier to work on this. Now we've got the hex head in the actual ball studs. And I must admit, one thing I've noticed already is I don't find the machining on these Injora ball studs brilliant. As I've been screwing these on now, the first one went in perfect, the second 2 were really awkward. The 050 driver, although it fits, it doesn't seem to fit perfect in every one. They're a little bit awkward. So right off the bat, I'm not massively impressed with the machining on the Injora. They definitely don't fit as good as the stock Losi screws. Not sure if these are not meant to be 050, but you can screw them in. So then we need to get as little tie rods and clip these on. And I've heard this concern voiced by a few guys that have used these. They feel pretty flimsy when you try and clip them in. So I'm not holding out much hope as you race this around the track. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of these pop out. Now, at the time when I ordered these, the GPM ones weren't available, but certainly just from my first impressions of them, I think my advice would be wait for the GPM ones or keep running the stock ones. But we'll have to see how it goes. So once we've got them clipped back in, we can then line the shocks up. Just make sure you're not losing any of your drive shaft parts or any of your shims or spacers off your shocks. Then we need to reposition a shock tower. As always, when you're working on this RC, just be very mindful you're working with tiny little screws, tiny little screw heads. So we've then got the 2 towards the front of us housing that we need to screw down. or the front of the wing mount if you like. You can then get your wing back in place, so that's going to fasten on in that position. So we need one of our screws, and it's probably going to help to get one of these in place first, and then we've got the two on the outside towards the top of the wing mount. And again, don't over tighten these because it'd be so easy to strip the threads on these things. And we've got our final screw. So that's our rear ones in place. Now let's get his wheels back on and see how these sit. I've not fitted the optional spacers. So one of the things I've learned whilst working on this Micro B, there's definitely an issue with clearance with the Wtf motor. You've got to make sure your pinion's far enough back. Else it will make your drivetrain really stiff. So that's definitely something to look out for if you are going down road with the Wtf motor. As you tighten this motor plate up, the pinion can easily catch, so make sure it's sat far enough back. Did feel like it were dragging, and now it's really free. I've just moved the pinion back slightly, but that is the rear ones fitted in their stock position. They do seem to work. Hard to tell yet, but it don't look like you need much adjustment or any on them. Just depends what angle you actually want this set at. So next we're moving on to the front. So on this we should be able to pop these off, and these should just be the longer ones. So start by getting both these off, and then we've got to remove these two ball studs, so I'll get them unscrewed. So once we remove the two outer ones, we've then got the lovely task of removing these two inner ones. So I'll crack on with that. So we've got them removed, that one, that one, that one, and that one. Now we just need to replace them with the Injora parts. And the one thing that's occurred to me is I'm gonna leave the inner ones until I have a reason to strip down the actual steering, and two, I think I'm going to try them and see if the Injora parts actually clip to the stock Losi ball studs any better. Although I really do appreciate the hex drives in the top of these, they really are a weird machine type to get these ends in. So if I just hold it, it kind of fits, but not perfect. So yeah, overall, not massively impressed with these ball studs. I really do like the fact that they've got the hex head on, but as for fitment, I don't know what size sort of hex drive it is, but that one fits perfect. The other one would barely, I just couldn't get it to go on to the 050 driver. So it's not so much a problem when you're screwing it into metal parts, because you can push on, but I do think they'd be really easy to strip the hex drive head out of them. And again with this one, just seems really awkward, like it's not quite machined right. Now luckily we don't need to go crazy tight with these, but I think it would be pretty easy to strip these out. And then this one just really doesn't feel happy. Once you get them started, they seem to screw in and out fine. But we shall crack on. So these ones I'm going to fit with the extra little rings to the same side as we did on rear. And again, you need very, very little pressure to pop them on. They do feel really, really weak. But the stock measurement on them kind of looks correct. So now we just need to pop our steering links off. And on these, they're definitely a lot harder to remove these stock ones. So if we turn the steering all the way across, we should be able to pop that one off. And as I say, what I'm going to try is leaving the stock inner balls on, and if we do get one pop off, if it's always the Injora part that pops off, then that kind of answers his question. So I need to get these off on both sides. But they're definitely a lot harder to get these stock ones off. So I'm going to remove these two stock ball studs and swap them for the Injora ones. So now we've got them removed, we can fight with some of these Injora ball studs again. And this one didn't seem too bad to put on the driver. Just very strange how some seem to pop on fine and some don't. So we got one fitted. This one again seems to go on driver absolutely fine. So there definitely seems to be a difference in machining of the actual hex drive input. So once we've got them on, we can now try and get this on. So if let's have a look which side the steering's at. So steering's at that side. So I'm going to try and pop this on the stock ball stud. Let's see how difficult it is to get this on. That doesn't feel too bad. Hard to tell whether it actually felt any easier to put on the stock one. And it is easy enough to get these to the side, just to unscrew them if you want to change them as well. But I think just for my own curiosity, I'm just going to see if when we take this to track, if any of these pop off, if it's always the one on the Injora studs on that side or if it's the one on the inner. But yeah, they do fit. We've got them all on. Does look like we need a bit of adjustment. So it looks like we need slightly longer on this side and possibly slightly shorter on this. But they are adjustable. You will need a really, really small spanner to adjust these, because I don't think any of my stock ones that I use for 10th racing or anything like that will fit. So I'm more than likely going to be putting the pliers on them and trying to adjust them. But I'll spend a few minutes trying to level these up and see what result we get. So it does make it really easy to set everything up. They don't pop off while you're adjusting them, or not to what I've found. I've got it set up pretty good now. We've got pretty decent steering in both directions. So yeah, quite happy with that. They don't restrict any at movement. They're nice and free. The steering slop, still a bit there, but don't think it's any worse than stock. But yeah, so we're still on the stock servo. They do fit. You can set your steering and everything up, and yeah, they're adjustable. Just yet to be seen whether they actually pop off or not. Suppose it depends how much you crash and how badly you crash. As to whether I'm going to use the rest of these, not sure. It's definitely handy to have a few spare, because these are really, really tiny screws, and you could, in a bad crash, snap them off, especially if they're going into alloy parts that you've upgraded. So that's definitely something to consider. It is a huge advantage on these parts, or ones that are awkward to get to be able to get a hex drive in and just screw them out. You'd be struggling to do that any other way. You can get a nut driver to fit down these, but some of these clearances are really, really tight, so you may have to machine the end of it. So yeah, I definitely like the way that they've got a hex drive on them. Just not massively convinced that they fasten on really well. Very nice to be able to adjust it though. Does make setting it up actually possible now, which is a lot better. It's something you can't do with the stock parts. But yeah, the weirdness with these tiny little washers, not really sure why they've given us all these. Not sure what the thinking is with them. You do get 4 spare, so you could do all the internal ones, I believe. So you've got 2 on the Ackerman plate, so you could do both of them. Then you've got the one that drives from the Ackerman plate to the servo arm. So as long as these threads are long enough for your servo arm, you could swap them out as well. But definitely worth picking up a pack of spare ones just in case you break them. So all we've got left to do now is add all the parts that we've took off, and I'll soon have enough bits to build another Micro B, which will probably come in useful, because I don't think Losi's made anywhere near enough, and it seems like as soon as these come in stock they sold out instantly. So not sure if that's down to scalpers buying them up, or if the demand genuinely is that high. Doesn't seem to be an issue getting hold of any of the parts, thankfully. So all the actual spares all seem readily available. If not from Losi, you can get them from the likes of GPM and Injora. And I think in States there's, is it Next Racing? I believe they do some. So, because these are resealable bags, we can keep all them together. I'm just going to rip this open and stick them in. The ones that we've got left can go in with the new or spare ones, because it's a lot harder to lose a great big bag than what it is to lose tiny bags. Still not sure about tidying this wiring up. I might pop a zip tie on it. We've still got the weird issue where the Micro B on stock setting goes to 680 or 690 forward, but in reverse it'll top out at 750. It is multiplied by 100, the RPM, but that's just the readings off the app. Toying with idea of picking up some tiny little thumb screws, because I think they'd be really nice to have thumb screws in here just to be able to undo them and flip that up to swap the battery. Bit of a weird choice what GPM's done with that. I know, I think it's Injora that's brought a flat one of these out that comes with little tiny thumb screws, so that's nice, but I do prefer the way the GPM one drops down and gives you a lot more clearance. As I've shown, if we took these wires in with the Micro Beast and the GMR-C3, I think it is, from Fly Sky, It does allow the body to sit on really, really well. It comes right down. So yeah, I do like that. But that is the GPM adjustable turnbuckles and the hex drive ball studs. And as I say, once you've used these ball studs, they do fit quite nice into driver. It just seems a little bit awkward getting them in the first time. So they will go in once they're fitted. It seems to open up and they're quite easy to get your driver back in there. Just a bit awkward when we're taking them out of packet and putting them in. It's not been the case with any GPM screws or any of the Losi screws. But that's yet another step on our little Micro B, getting it ready for racing. So let's wrap this one up. So there we have it, the LOS09 adjustable turnbuckles, and the LOS8-25 is the spare pack if you're after the spare ball studs. But yeah, they do seem to fit. I'm just a little bit on fence about whether these will actually be an upgrade or not. They're nice that you can adjust them, so that's definitely a bonus. The hex head in the ball studs, really like that idea. Just some of the hex heads are a bit awkward to get your driver in, and it does feel really easy to pop these on. I did want to leave the stock ones in the middle just to see if we get any of these steering ones pop off, if it's actually the Injora side or the stock side. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, certainly from all the parts I've fitted, the only bit we've had a little issue with was the GPM shocks. I had one of the little washers missing, so I had to fit two bigger ones. Other than that, all the GPM parts seem pretty much bang on. The Injora parts, just not great machining on the hex drive heads, and they do feel a little bit easy to put on. Just sort of makes me concerned that they'll pop off mid-race with a bit of a clip. But yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. But there you have it. Thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Share to friends and family. And catch you guys again in the next one.